Welcome to the Cooper 2018 year-end video.
This is the 15th year of the Cooper year-end videos. Coming back for the 6th year is the 20 years ago and 50 years ago feature. For now, it is December of 2017.
As with many year-end videos, the first thing to happen is a Snow Ranch rocket launch. Tony often has enthusiastic little helpers. This launch was no different. This young man assisted Tony with loading the candy, setting up the rocket, and I'm sure he is lost in the crowd of kids seeking candy droppings. The rocket landed near the creek.
2017 ended with a popular event, the Huntus New Year's Eve party. There was a poker game. Tony cleaned the table. The rest has faded into history. January 2018.
There were no recorded events for January.
February 2018.
February started with a trip to Napa Valley. Tony and Cheryl seem to have dropped the word no from their vocabulary. They bought way too much wine. March 2018.
March brought another Snow Ranch launch. Only Tony and Caravon attended. They flew the piñata rocket for the kids. Tony managed to drop the piñata right in front of all the parents. That evening they, along with the lunar president, built rocket motors in the lobby of a Marriott hotel, all while pondering the ramifications of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco and Firearms stopping by for a visit.
Next day, they flew the piñata again. The piñata landed near the creek again.
Hey, look up! Look up! Look up!
March also brings the usual monster truck event. This was Monster Jam World Finals 19, the 16th in a row for the Cooper family. They would learn this evening that it would be the last World Finals at Sam Boyd Stadium. Cheryl posed with Son of a Digger. Tony posed with his favorite truck Maximum Destruction. Crystal dressed up for the part of Zombie. She spent a little time with the zombie drivers. Then, in honor of the movie Rampage, Crystal needed to take pictures with Lizzie, Ralph and of course, George Monster Trucks. Of course racing opens with a parade of trucks. Tony's truck did not win racing, but he does put on a fine encore. Max D performed his world-famous forward momentum backflip, more or less, performing several attempts.
Woo! Walk it out! Yeah!
Next day is freestyle. Crystal visited her zombie truck and drivers again. What do you call the show before the show? Pre-encore? Any case, the Diesel brothers borrowed 2 trucks and put on a pre-show show. It was supposed to be a donut competition. One of the brothers just couldn't get it to spin. All skipped the parade of trucks. Freestyle was not won by Max D. The encore was a tribute to the Rampage movie.
Soldier for Almost made it double.
A fine reenactment of movie destruction. Then Cheryl got shot by a firework after the base failed under the barrage. Next year the Coopers are attending monster trucks at Oakland Coliseum.
April 2018.
April brings another Snow Ranch launch. Pinata launched perfectly.
1, 2. Got them both. There's one. And one.
Recovery was a little sketchy.
One.
Only one parachute deployed and it landed among the cars. Luckily no cars were hit this time. Only Kevin and Tony attended and they built motors in the Marriott lobby for the next day's launch.
Day 2 of the launch and yet another pinata flight.
There's one. Wait for the second one. 500 feet. There it goes.
This time Tony dropped the pinata on top of an easy up. But again, no damage.
Knowing that they would not have any more World Finals in Las Vegas, Tony and Cheryl tested a show at Levi Stadium. They enjoyed watching their trucks, but the stadium is just too small to do monster trucks justice. Having to store all the trucks on the stadium floor reduced the area for the show. They decided that would be their last monster truck event at that stadium. May 2018.
May 2018 and it is Peggy's birthday. Her 81st. Tony and Cheryl took her to BJ's Brewhouse.
3 days later, Crystal managed to total her car. Upon viewing this video, lots of people think that the driver of the truck was going way too fast. Tony vehemently disagreed. He said he could prove it. Cheryl made him analyze the video. There was exactly 2 seconds of time the truck was on the video. Tony measured the distance in the street. It was 60 feet. That made for 30 feet per second or 20 miles an hour. Rear bumper damage, Experience said that was $3,000. Broken tail light was another $500. Crushed hatch and broken window should cost at least another $2,000. Then there is the frame damage. Tony was confident there was more than $5,000 damage. The car only cost $11,300 out the door. He and Cheryl bought another one and had it in the driveway within 24 hours. The new car cost $10,500 out the door. A couple days later and the body shop said they stopped adding at $8,000, and that was before they started disassembling the car to find internal damage. State Farm paid Tony $11,500 for the totaled car. He made $1,000 on the deal, but State Farm will charge him more than $1,000 during the next year's insurance increases.
Tony and Cheryl attended Bottle Rock again this year. Tony learned that his favorite child band, the Helmets, changed their name to The Alive. They still played a phenomenal set.
As usual, they scheduled a stop at Castello di Amorosa. They managed to only drink and not buy any wine.
On the way home, they stopped at the Chamberlains for Memorial Day celebration. They posed for some family group photos. Lois, Peggy, Melissa, Maya and Leah. Then Carol, Tim, Bob, Lois, and Hunter. Next up, Lois, Tony, Cheryl, Peggy and Kevin. Back to Bob's side with Kathy, Ian, Lois, Ruby, Bob, Jared and Nick. Last up was Katie, Landry, JC, John, Corey and somehow, Lois again. She keeps getting in all the pictures. June 2018.
June arrived and Tony and Cheryl decided to invite themselves along on Bob Cooper's Hawaiian getaway. The first thing that Tony decided to do was to wear his complimentary Mai Tai.
They arrived, checked in and got greeted by the local wildlife of snails and sea turtles. They then took a meal with the rest of the Cooper clan.
Day 2 was a trip to Waimea Canyon. Yes, there were lizards, chickens, tigers and Coopers.
Day 3 and Tony tried to let the ocean kill him. This is not a good place to go snorkeling. Besides all the coral cuts, he was convinced that the blackened toe was broken. It hurt up into his knee and he could not put much weight on that leg. You may have heard that Bob's favorite place is Duke's.
Day 4 and Tony's toe was changing color. It turned from black to red. He could walk on it reasonably well and the pain was localized to the toe area. Perhaps it was not broken, but hyperextended. Bob and Tony managed to escape to a beachside bar before the obligatory luau where Tony and Cheryl took a seaside photo. Tony and Bob headed back to the beachside bar for the day while the rest of the Cooper clan took a trip to the Fern Grotto and took an ATV sightseeing tour.
Day 6 and the family planned a Napali Coast snorkel cruise. Besides the beautiful scenery, the boat captain also brought the boat close enough to the shoreline to dunk the bow and any passenger who wanted to get wet. As you might imagine, Cheryl was first. Due to rains, the snorkeling experience was rather poor. Way too much algae was blooming, limiting visibility to inches. The family did see plenty of dolphins and did some Titanic reenactments.
For Father's Day, Kevin went with Tony and Bob for a beer cruise on San Francisco Bay with Hornblower Cruises. It just might become a new tradition.
Later in June, Tony and Cheryl brought Bob along to their favorite winery Castello di Amorosa for jousting, wine and food.
Next day and they had to return to drink some more wine and take some more pictures.
Next day, Tony and Cheryl started their annual vacation. First time in nearly 25 years that they were alone on vacation. First stop was Meteor Crater in Arizona.
Next day, Roswell, New Mexico. Cheryl smooched with aliens while Tony was looking for Vulcans.
Cheryl learned that Cadillac Ranch was not far away. She wanted to stop. It was a very windy day. The dust blowing in their eyes made Tony wish for a virtual reality experience. Cheryl eagerly protected her eyes with her alien glasses.
They made it to Branson, Missouri where they met up with friends, the Nablos, from Iowa. They started with the duck ride. After some prodding, they got Annabella and Luke to steer the boat for a while. Little did they know that just 19 days later 17 people would die in a duck boat accident.
Later that night, Tony's classmate Teresa invited them all out for an evening on the lake and watching the 4th of July fireworks. Yes, the fireworks started 4 days early.
July 2018.
July and the adults abandoned the kids and went wine tasting. Tony and Cheryl were pleased to learn that Branson has some wineries that cater to their sweet wine tastes. Karen and Mike had no expectation of liking any wine. Guess they didn't have the correct guides because they ended up purchasing some bottles.
For their patience, the kids got rewarded with a day at Silver Dollar City. Log rides, comedy shows and other entertainment was enjoyed by all.
Next fireworks were at Branson Landing. There was a live band, Jason Pritchett and the Steel Horses. With Tony and Cheryl's prior knowledge, they got some premium seats for the show.
Another night and another fireworks show. Historically, the launch point was a barge on the lake. This year, they launched the fireworks from the nearby helicopter pad.
Near the resort was a downhill coaster. They all took a ride. Tony was the only one to take pictures.
On to Iowa and Cheryl and Tony attended a cousin reunion with the Pratts. Dana, Joe, Carol, Jim, Tony, Cheryl, Sharon, Jean, and 3 more Pratts that Tony could not remember.
That same evening, one of Tony's classmates invited them over for dog play and wine drinking.
Next day and a trip to Cedar Ridge Winery with Tony's sister Mary Jane and boyfriend. They drank wine and listened to music from a live band.
They arrived in Houston to see Cheryl's classmate Sharon. It happened to be Sharon's birthday. They drank and chatted about old times.
Tony and Cheryl then went on to Sedona Pines in Arizona. They were cottages but Tony thought of them as single-wide mobile homes. Cheryl seemed right at home. First night there and Cheryl wanted to see a live performance from a flutist.
The flutist told them about a Celtic festival and that Cheryl might like to check out the Wicked Tinkers. Tony ended up enjoying them as much as Cheryl.
Next, Tony met up with an old Navy buddy. They had not seen each other since the day that Tony proposed to Cheryl, 32 years earlier.
Next day, Tony and Cheryl did a little Sedona sightseeing. They took a tour to Cathedral Rock. They had built a church into the rocks. It was a spectacular view from the church.
Cheryl needed to do some in-town sightseeing. She is a sucker for horse statues. Make that any kind of artwork. Moose, bears, more horses, frogs, birds and elk. She doesn't really have a preference.
The next day they took a ride on the Verde Canyon train. They viewed some amazing desert sights.
Next day they did a little sightseeing at the resort and then took a drive around a local scenic route called Red Rock Loop. That evening they took in a country jamboree.
August 2018.
August and Tony and Kevin started drinking. Not too unusual, but cousin Melissa needed to borrow a tool. They were in no condition to drive, so she had to come to them. While waiting they went outside, leaned against the cars, watched passing satellites while finishing their drinks waiting for Melissa to arrive. They did not mind waiting.
Tom Ewing was moving to Arizona and it proved to be the spark for many cousins to get together. Tony numbered them all so he would not forget them.
About quarterly BJ's Brewhouse restaurant holds a beer pairing dinner. It has become a tradition for Bob to join Cheryl and Tony.
Since Marilyn Manson got injured just before last year's Aftershock concert, Tony bought tickets for the Twins of Evil concert featuring Marilyn and Rob Zombie. Even Cheryl could not help in singing along.
September 2018.
September, and neither Cheryl or Tony had attended a tractor pull. Since they were at their favorite winery, they just had to make the side trip. This one was more of a truck pull than a tractor pull, but they had a good time watching. Tony had to share a couple machines. October 2018.
October, and it is Aftershock again. The bands were great, but the beer was abysmal.
Early in October, Tony bought a new car. A 2019 Honda Insight Touring Edition. What does he do with a brand new car? He gets curious about how it works. So he tore it apart, of course. Actually, he did have a purpose. Even the Touring Edition did not come with parking sensors. The dealer wanted about $600 for parts and somewhere around $1,200 to install them. Tony and Kevin invested a little over 6 hours on Saturday and installed them. This video was sped up 500 to 1,000 times, but it was still 3 minutes long. He kindly decided to cut it down to 60 seconds of video.
November 2018.
November, and Kevin had to buy his own new car. A 2018 Ford Fiesta ST in orange with the Recaro seats factory installed. He's as much in love with his car as his daddy is with his own car. 20 years ago.
Time to roll back the calendar to 20 years ago when Kevin turned 5 years old. This would be the first monster truck show that Tony, Cheryl and Kevin attended. Being in Oakland Arena, it was rather small event. Kevin was learning to be a ham and liked to eat brownies. He helped Tony to change the brakes on the Mazda they had. It was hard work. John borrowed his father-in-law's boat and took Kevin and cousins out for a little fun. In August they made a trip to Bonneville to a rocket launch called LDRS-17. It was their first big rocket launch. Kevin looked pretty lonely on the salt flats. But he kept busy with cleaning empty rocket motors, making salt men and looking at the amazing rockets. They went on to Iowa where they celebrated Kevin's birthday a month early so Tony's family could enjoy it. Tony and Kevin found time to mow the yard. Tony and Cheryl took Peggy on a riverboat just like in her childhood. Both women insisted on dipping their toes in the Mississippi River. They made a stop at Pikes Peak, Iowa. They stopped at Sac Air Force Museum in Omaha, Nebraska. Then a stop at the Great Salt Lake in Utah. Back in California, they visited Marine World USA. Kevin started kindergarten in 1998. He took a school trip to the pumpkin patch. He participated in a play and had a birthday. Halloween he went trick-or-treating with the cousins. Then participated in the Christmas pageant with his school. To end the year, the family took a family photo. "50 years ago."
Time to roll back the calendar even farther to 50 years ago, back to 1968 when Tony and Cheryl would be turning 5 years old. On Tony's side, he and his brother enjoyed swimming in an old gravel pit. Tony's kindergarten picture. Can you find him? Just look for the taxi cab with the open doors. Cheryl's family took a photo with many cousins. Can you find her? 1968 was the year that Cheryl's grandfather passed. Do these family photos bring back some memories? Fishing anyone? Cheryl and Denise have the same birthday. Just a few more photos to round out the end of the 2018 Cooper family year-end video.
That concludes the 2018 Cooper year-end video.